For the Pioneer viewers, the war's agenda have been quite intense in recent days. Regional wars, conflicts, and economic crises continue to challenge the global system. At the points where the system is challenged, there are times when politics and diplomacy are helpless. If there is war and conflict, there must be a strong logistic network in that region. Logistics is one of the most important elements on the road to victory. If the necessary support is not provided to the troops at the point, the sustainability of the war is at risk. It is necessary to constantly renew the soldiers and equipment at the front. For these reasons, logistics is one of the most important elements. With the Russian invasion attempt against Ukraine, the logistic network has been targeted by the Ukrainian defense many times. Russian logistics has lost its function many times, especially in the occupied regions, because it was from the center in the terms of the distance and the Ukrainian defense had taken good positions. But this was not enough to prevent Russian logistics. The Ukrainian army used the extensive intelligence network to identify Russian targets one by one. It organized major operations against the strategic targets, such as the Crimean Bridge and the Russian ports, to disturb Russian logistics. After successful operations, the Ukrainian army also made successful moves to expel Russian troops from its territory. Recently, a new operation was successfully completed. The Ukrainian army organized a successful operation against the Russian logistic train. Now, if you're ready, let's examine the details of the operation and the latest developments together. In the statements made by the Ukrainian National Resistance Center, information about the operation was shared. According to the statements made by the National Center of Resistance of Ukraine, Ukrainian partisans blew up a Russian train the other day. The train, which was determined to be carrying ammunition and fuel to the Russian troops in the Zaporizhia region, were destroyed by the Ukrainian army. The National Center of Resistance, which operates as an information source under the Ukrainian Armed Forces, announced the operation in the post. It says that Kiev supporters in the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol sabotaged a Russian train used by the daily supply from the Crimea to the Melitopol and Dnipro-Don in the Zaporizhia region. The attack reportedly resulted in heavy damage to the locomotive and 150 meters of a railroad track. The Ukrainian army continues to organize attacks on Russia's logistic network. Cutting logistic is considered to be the most effective way to prevent possible operations with the Russian army. The remaining parts of the Russian occupation troops inside Ukraine are complaining about logistic problems. Unable to reinforce the Russian troops on the front line, the Russian army is trying every means. The Russian army, which is constantly monitored from the land and the sea, cannot replenish ammunition and fuel. Russian troops seems to be trapped in the region where Ukrainian intelligence is constantly conducting reconnaissance observation activities. The logistical problems of the Russian troops enabled the Ukrainian army to gain an advantage in the counterattack operations. During the period when the counterattack are relatively slowed down, Russian troops are prevented from massing. The Ukrainian army is building strong fortifications in the liberated areas. The closer the Ukrainian army gets to the border, the more powerful its moves are expected to be. The train attacked by Ukrainian troops is the latest in the series of the operation targeting Russian railway this year. In previous operations, Russian railway were frequently targeted by the Ukrainian army. Last June, an explosion on the railway line in the Feodosia region of the Crimea caused quite a stir, as did another explosion in May that derailed rail traffic between Simferopol and Sevastopol. Ukraine's attacks on the Russian logistics are proceeding exactly as planned. The Ukrainian military is trying to use the strategy effectively. Especially by using military intelligence and unmanned aerial vehicles, successful operations are being organized without any casualties. The tactical successes of the Ukrainian army particularly pleases its supporters. According to the Ukrainian National Center of Resistance, the latest attack was a 10th successful operation against Russian railways by a troop in the Zaporizhia region this year. According to local sources, the Russian train was not only carrying ammunition. It turned out that the destroyed train was carrying out not only supplies for the Russian President Vladimir Putin's military personnel in Zaporizhia, but also damaged equipment and stolen goods, such as iron ore, grain and other materials that were being returned to Crimea from Ukraine. After the Ukrainian attack, Russian troops reportedly surrendered to the site of the attacks after the explosion in order to conceal the operation and search for the local troops behind the attack. The Ukrainian National Center for Resistance, however, said that local units behind the attack were safe and promised to carry out more acts of sabotage in the future. Local Ukrainian troops have also achieved significant successes in the aftermath of Putin's invasion attempt. The most important advantage of local troops is that they know their area very well and can camouflage well. This makes it very easy to inflict heavy damage on the invading Russian troops. Even inside Russia, Ukrainian supporters are making bold moves. They make important contributions to the intelligence of the Ukrainian army. Local troops who even report the location, status, and ammunition supply of the Russian troops provide a great advantage in the counterattacks. Having been armed for many years, especially after the Crimean War, local forces had considerably military experience. The fact that the Russian soldiers they are up against are the most recruits makes the Ukrainian army's job easier. In late July, it was revealed that the partisans were behind a mass poisoning during the Russian military celebration in the occupied city of Mariupol. According to the Ukrainian officials, 2 Russian officers were neutralized after 15 others hospitalized after partisans poisoned Kremlin forces celebrating Navy Day, a popular national holiday in Russia honoring members of the country's naval forces. In the background, as the Ukrainian army continues its strategic operations, important developments are taking place on the front line. Last night, Ukrainian defense repelled the attacks of the Russian troops. A statement was made by the Air Force of the Ukrainian Armed Forces regarding the attack. According to the statements, the Ukrainian Air Force shot down 6 of the 6 Iranian-made Shahed 136-131 drones used by the Russian troops to attack Ukraine and an enemy-guided air missiles of Kh-59. The Ukrainian army continues to make significant gains in defensive and offensive positions. The Ukrainian army wants to secure its gains as the war agenda is focused on the events in Gaza. While the Ukrainian army's gains are increasing, Russia is increasingly squeezed in the political arena. The Ukrainian army needs to protect its gains and strengthen its positions. The developments are expected to be updated again in the coming days. What do you think about the attacks on the Russian train by Ukrainian local troops? How do you think the strategic operations of the Ukrainian army have reflected on the Russian army? Do you think Ukrainian local troops have been effective in the course of the war? What do you think are the consequences of blocking Russian logistics? What gains do you think the Ukrainian army will make in the coming days? We value your opinion. Please share it with us.